my dolls, and welcome to the Cello Doll YouTube channel. If you've clicked on this video, then you want to work on your intonation, and that's always a fabulous thing because you're going to be working on it for all of your cello journey, forever and ever, so never a bad time to start. Now in this video, we are going to be talking about perfect intervals that live on your cello and are ways you can check your intonation without a tuner. I made a previous video where we covered perfect octaves and unison or the same pitch with open strings. So if you're interested in having those tools in your toolbox as well, I will include a link to the video right here. I also bring up that video because we are going to be using octaves as a part of tuning in this video. So if you're not familiar with octaves on the cello, I highly recommend checking out that video before you come here. So today we're going to be discussing perfect fourths and perfect fifths. So when I say a perfect fourth or a perfect fifth, I am talking about the distance between two pitches. If the concept of a fifth sounds familiar to you, you might have been told or found out on your own that the cello is tuned in fifths. Now another way you can think of a fifth is between one note to another, we have 5 pitches. So from our C to G string, C, D, E, F, G, that's 5. Likewise with the perfect fourth, C, D, E, F, that's 4. So C to F is a fourth, while C to G is a fifth. Now what makes these intervals perfect? If you were to take the frequency of 2 pitches that were a fourth or a fifth apart, their sound waves have a lot of places where they intersect and line up if you were to take their 2 sound waves and overlap them on top of one another. With all of these places the sound waves intersect, we have a lot of resonance, a lot of potential to get more ringing out of our cello. So next, I am going to talk about some of the notes that I think are very beneficial by tuning in fourths and fifths. We're going to start with the fifth because the time you would need to tune a fifth on the cello is when you have a barred fingering. Again, our strings are tuned in fifths, so if we have 2 notes that are a fifth, most of the time you're going to be holding it down with one finger across both strings. Now, contrary to what you might think, it's not going to be exactly parallel how our bridge is. You might have to tilt it at a slight diagonal. So let's take C and G. I would first ask, is there an open string I can use? Well, I do have an open G, but it's preoccupied by my second finger on the C. So it's C and G. I do have my open C string. We can start by testing our bass, the C octave against the C string. So I'm going to hold the note and get a perfect octave. Now I'm going to leave my second finger and lean down into the D string. Let's see what I get. You see when I tilt the finger? You hear the note kind of drifting around. And you want it to settle where they sound harmoniously together. There it was a little low, the G was a little low, so I brought my elbow around to bring the pitch up. And you don't want the C to wiggle around too much. You really want to try to keep that C that we tuned to the C string. So that's a great way to test barred fingers, a fifth, where you have an open string available you can use. Big disclaimer, because we're about to do a deep dive into fourths. It's okay if you don't hear the perfect interval right away. Now that's why we call this ear training, because you are taking the time to train your ear to hear more of these musical subtleties. So it's totally fine. It will take some time. A really quick way that helped me was if I was really struggling with a millimeter, I would just go really out of tune and start over and slide until I thought the perfect interval matched better. So I would slide and trust myself, and even if I was a little off, let's say you're 90% there, it's going to eventually become 94%, 96%. You're going to start to get much better at this. So it's okay for some trial and error at first. One reference point that is a perfect fourth is our first finger plus the next highest string. For example, I'm on E, which is on our D string, E, F, G, A. E to A is our fourth. So I'm going to start almost on a D sharp, really off, and do that sliding. Let's see if you dolls can catch when the notes seem to come together and ring beautifully. And now let's do it once we're a little bit too high. We also call that beating. And you might be hearing that because the places where those sound waves are supposed to line up are slightly off, and we're hearing that discrepancy. So we hear this pulsing in between the two pitches. Super cool stuff, super sciencey, back to cello stuff. So we have our E with our A string, our A with our D string, and then our D with our G string. So you heard that? I slid into it. And there is our perfect fourth on the bottom. So you have this way of testing the first finger. Sadly, our B on top, we don't have an E string to test it with, but we did have that first finger E. Well, we know the E is right. What if we laid it down? And tune that for our B. So there are some ways to mix and match intervals. So let's take the same E we were working on, but use our G string. Let's say I'm in fourth position and I really want to test this E. So I could use my open A string here and then test. So I had to be a little higher. And there's my perfect fourth. That's a way we can use a unison or octave plus a perfect fourth and test notes that don't match an open string. Let's say I have to tune a C natural on the A string. Well, I could use my open C, but I can't hold a double stop. Double stop is two strings at once. I can't hold a double stop between my C string and my A string, and I really want to practice my double stop. If I go down from C, C, B, A, G, I have a fourth on G. Why don't I use G? So I have my 4. Now how am I going to test my fourth finger G? My open G string. We discussed this in part 1. We can get that fourth finger right. And now I can hold a double stop and figure out where my second finger wants to go. So we're going to do some sliding. I'm going to start pretty low. There it is. There's my C. So I'm going to show you dolls one other example where you have to tune a double stop. So we've been using double stops to tune, but you also encounter them in your repertoire. So let's say I'm going to go to third position, have my A, and then I have to play a D on top, and that is a perfect fourth, A to D. So even though I could test my D with the open D string, I'm kind of tuning from the top down. Most of the time, I'll say 9 out of 10, you want to tune from the bottom up because the bass needs a solid foundation for the tuning. I'm going to start with finding my A with the open A string. This is a unison. So if I'm out, it's very apparent. So I have this A. Now I got a tune. I need to play a D double stop. Move that pointer finger around until we get it. Once I get it, it's good habit to really sit on it and have your ear recognize that as the correct sound. All right, my dolls, I hope you found this video helpful. Live with the concept for a while. It really takes some time to really get familiar with the fingerboard map, memorize where these fourths are, and experiment with it in some of your rep. When you see that 4-note distance or 5-note distance, try some of the exercises we covered in today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel, it's awesome to have you here. I am the Cello Doll. Welcome. And in addition to YouTube, you can also follow my shenanigans on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And you know how it is on YouTube. I'm not going to tell you not to subscribe. If you like cello content and enjoyed this video, hang around for a bit. Check out what's in the video description for extra content, ways you can support Cello Doll, and thank you so much for being here today. We'll see you in the next video, and as always, happy practicing, my dolls. Bye-bye!